Mick here, hello, good morning. It's an exciting day today. You'll know from the title of the video what's going on. I came to Cheltenham last night, stayed over in a hotel because we've got a very early start this morning. Matt and the team at Monty's are early risers, which is great. Not only that, he's got one of his kids' sports days this afternoon, so we've got to get this done. I was slightly surprised when he said he could do it, in a day, and I can just hang around, film a bit, and then leave with my nicely refretted guitar. So I'm very excited. I'm a little bit sleepy. Let's see what the day brings.
Alrighty.
Here we are then. We've arrived.
I
am here. There you go. Matt from Monty's, you know Matt.
Hello.
From the video with Dan, among many other things. And yeah.
Let's get it out.
We can tell the rest of the story the rest of the day, but for now, I'm interested in capturing Matt's initial impression of what we're going to have to deal with.
Okay.
Ready? Woo!
There she is.
So I saw Matt at a guitar show just recently, and I had the guitar with me, and I said to you then, I think I had an issue or two.
Yeah.
In that I couldn't really get the action high enough. Mm-hmm. And your response was basically to check the relief of the neck, and whatever came next.
Yeah. So from memory, what you've got on here is, as I said to you at the show, you've got kind of almost a perfect amount of relief on the bass side, but the treble side is like loads of it. And that's looking down the frets. The neck itself is fine, but as you play a guitar and wear stuff away, you kind of create false relief, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because of where you play.
Yeah. That's why typically lots of the time you look at a guitar, and that's very common.
Yeah.
Because lots of people play, A minor blues.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Do you see guitars that have very even fretware?
Yeah, rarely.
Yeah.
There's a few guys. There's one. Oh god, there's a guy called Charlie Allen who's like insane.
Man, he's a monster player.
Yeah, absolutely insane, and that's wear everywhere.
Yeah.
And people like that. That kind of player, definitely.
Here with me, you're going to get a lot here.
Yeah.
Quite a bit there, and some there, and not much at all up there.
Yeah, so similar to me.
Yeah.
Cool, but everything. Yeah, the nut's really low.
Yeah.
And looks like it may have been shimmed already.
In order to preserve.
So because basically you raise it up and then you can so you don't need to replace it.
Right.
Because you can see the slots are really deep too.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to play with. So especially if we're going to put new frets in, that's going to sort of really accentuate that. So I'm 90% sure we'll have to replace that.
Yeah, it's funny, so this is a refinished guitar. Mm-hmm. It's obviously had work done over the years. It will have been refretted at some point before. Yeah. I'm not in any way attached to it not playing perfectly, if that makes sense. Right. So the idea of preserving something in the interests of it being a vintage guitar, sound-wise, sure. Yeah, I don't really want to mess about with any of this, but to make it play, it's got to work. It has to work as an instrument. So
cool.
Yeah. So presumably you've seen loads of these.
Yeah, a fair amount.
What are the common issues with, I don't know, because presumably this is a Brazilian board, I would have thought.
Yeah.
What is there anything that's different from a newer Strat or?
Not really. I mean, when you're doing a job like this, the process is the same. You just do, A, B, C, follow that, and the balancing and the setup and everything. And there's like little bits that you do which will be different. I mean, obviously with these, vintage Strats and stuff, you can. I think the idea was to knock the frets out sideways, but I still do it the same way. I sort of pull them up the top because because you get I've had less like breakout and all that kind of stuff that way, and I bypass a few problems by doing it that way. But it is all the same. The one thing that you will find sometimes, especially if it's had a lot of work, which this one has actually, it's on a couple of places. They've obviously reshot the board.
Yeah.
and when they've been cutting the fret slots in, it's gone through the rosewood and actually gone into the maple.
Gone into the maple, yeah.
Which, you know, isn't a problem, really.
And in terms of how much rosewood there is left, would you say that's a lot, not very much, or...?
That's kind of... You don't want to take any more off.
Yeah.
Because usually, and it's exactly on this, you can see it from this side.
Yeah, I can, it's funny, I'll do a little detail of that in a second.
But it's more on the bass side, but you can see how it's lower here than it is here.
Yeah.
But typically why that happens is because the neck most guitar necks will kick up here.
Yeah.
So to bypass that, what you do, once all the woods have dried and settled down, you take the frets out, reshoot it, so you're taking down this area of the board.
Yeah.
So it's nice and straight.
So you don't get the fishtail thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what, when you get guitars that are all zingy up here, that's what causes that.
Yeah.
So it's just getting rid of that, and so that's fairly normal. But the one thing that I won't do on this, which I usually do on a modern guitar, is to do a really light reshoot of the board, where you just take everything so it's all flat and stuff.
Yeah.
But we won't do that on this one. But apart from that, it's all the same.
It's all the same, yeah. I'm just going to grab the camera a second, do a quick... Yeah, so Matt was saying on the board here, as you can see, that some of the fret tangs go into the maple, is that right?
Yeah, but there's one particularly, which is where the tang itself doesn't, but you can see the cut on
Oh,
there.
yeah, okay.
But this is it's a typical thing you see.
And we've got a little bit less rosewood at this end of the board than we have at this end, because of that fishtail, or I'm using the term fishtail. What's the?
I call it a kick up.
A kick up, yeah. And you know, from having seen a lot of these guitars, you think this is fairly typical?
Yeah, it's really typical of this kind of thing. Lots of the time, this will happen because there'll be, I mean, you've most probably seen it, tiny bits of like sandpaper or something under the heel. Yeah. To sort of angle the neck back if the pocket's not right or something like that. And again, things like that will make it kick up. And also on the 70s Strats, I think they had it on some other, and they did it on other ones. They had the grub screw thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
To tilt it.
Yeah, micro tilt.
Yeah, that micro tilt, that causes it too. So it doesn't actually help long term.
Yeah, we talked about the possibility of a shim, didn't we? If the neck angle's not really working.
Yeah.
Once we get there, but...
Yeah, I don't think we're going to need one. I mean, if we do a shim, we'll do a full pocket shim.
Okay.
And that relieves any stress or anything. So it'll all be good.
Matt's just asked me if I use the trem, and I do. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. So I like it where it's on the body, but my biggest bend will just lift it off. Okay. Which means that I can do all string on string bends without any too much trouble. Yeah. And you can kind of use it for a super light wobble or a Jimmy dive bomb without too much issue. What I find really interesting is the sound difference with that backplate on the body of the guitar is quite significant. Yeah. And if it's just touching, you get this extra resonance. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, well, it's more physical contact between, so anything like that's going to have make a slight change. But you're dealing with that final kind of 1.5%, but all of it makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I notice it playing acoustically. So if it's, for example, if I haven't quite got enough tension on the strings and it's just touching, you can get where it's sort of not quite in full contact and therefore it's vibrating, which is a bit odd. Weirdly, I love the sound of Strats when it's floating, because they sound springier, they sound lighter, they sound more Stratty, but I can't play it that way, because if I do, if I do something, if I'm doing anything like that, these strings go out of tune and it doesn't work. That kind of thing. So yeah, I've grown up with them essentially on the body. So, and I guess, does that mean then that the action is necessarily a bit lower because I mean, it's only going to be a tiny bit,
yeah,
isn't it?
kind of. Just because you're pulling it back, you're pulling these down, but it's only a very small amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a fair amount of wriggle room on there,
Happy days.
so we should all be good.
Awesome. Where do we begin then?
Take the strings off, rip the frets out, and we go.
Rip the frets out. I love rip the frets out.
Wicked.
Cool.
What strings are you using on these?
I use 10.5 to 50.
Okay. And standard concert pitch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good at those.
It's pretty cool. The guy who originally owned the guitar.
Yeah.
So the chap I bought it off was a really nice guy called Simon, and his dad bought it new in '61.
Yeah.
And he put this on, and I've got the picture of him in '61 with it on.
Oh no, you showed me.
Yes, yeah, at the guitar show.
That's really cool.
And I can't bring myself to take it off because it's just
No, it's part of it, isn't it?
It's part of it, and it's an old Campagnolo gear lever, I think, or brake lever or something.
That's so cool.
From a bicycle, and it's always been a guitar that's worked. It's always toured. It's always been in studios. It's always done stuff.
It's a sign of a good one.
They say that, don't they? I mean,
Yeah.
I just, I've probably like you. I've played and seen loads, but I haven't owned loads.
Yeah.
So spending time with them is
Yeah, I've I had the chance to buy a '68 telly once, which is one of the best tellies I've ever played. It was when I was in kind of workshop 2, which was at a little shed out the back of a music studio in Richmond called State of the Arc. It was run by owned by Terry Britton.
Okay.
It's sort of the guy who wrote like "What's Love Got to Do with It" and all that kind of stuff.
I've heard his name.
And his collection was insane, but he had this refin. I think it was a refin. It must have been late Placid Blue '68 telly, and it was just freaking magical. And he offered it to me for £3,000, which, I just didn't, especially then I didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
And kids need shoes and food on table and all that
right.
kind of thing. So I couldn't. But it's one of those. That's one of those sort of kick me moments.
I think we've all got them, haven't they?
Yeah.
I remember back to my times, early days on Guitarist magazine, and if you look back through the ads in the back of the mag at that time, you're like, oh my God, why didn't we just buy all this stuff?
Yeah.
If they were £4,000 then that was still.
That was yes.
I think my salary at that time was £8,500.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man.
6 months' money on a guitar. But I'm given to believe that back in the '60s, that's kind of what they were. They were significant outlay, and you'd have to have them on tick and and all of that.
Yeah, no. There's a guy I know, a guy called Paul McCaffrey, who used to work at Chandler's.
Yeah.
But his mum, he was caught skipping school, and playing guitar instead. And his mum, instead of bollocking him, took him down to a music shop and got him a Strat in '62, and he's still got that Strat to this day. And that was on. His mum was she was a cleaner and worked in various doctors' surgeries on did all that kind of thing. And they were paying it off for ages, but it was the way to get him. It kind of got him on the straight and narrow.
And that's how he got.
And that's how he's got this Strat.
I will just show you this for the sake of provenance. Hopefully you can see that. Pencil markings on the end of the neck. 361, March '61.
Nice.
This is where I was thinking. This is where you take it apart and you go, no, this isn't what you think it is, Mick.
Yeah. Let's just get all these off.
Take tuners off as well.
Yeah, sometimes I don't. I usually just do it all at the end of the bench. But with this one, it's just to make sure, because you're obviously going to be hitting the neck and stuff with like hammers and things. So
I love that. You're going to be hitting the neck with hammers. I love it. I love it. I do actually love it, honestly.
Yeah, I've done, because ever since I started, like in my apprenticeship, my bench, the benches at the workshop are really open. So I've always worked in front of people, so that's not a thing, and you know, sort of talk people through stuff. But doing refrets in front of the owners of their guitars can be an interesting experience.
I did say to Matt, you know, are you okay if I film it today? And he's like, yeah, man, whatever you want. I'm like, cool. I mean, as viewers of that pedal show will know, my attempt at guitar maintenance and work is, well, you know, rudimentary, I would say. So I'm not squeamish about it at all. Like I say, it's got to work. It has to work as an instrument.
There's one thing you get on the old Strats and stuff. The holes are so much tighter.
Yeah, right.
Whereas now they kind of drill the whole thing out. So it's E.
Look at that. And I assume them to be original.
Yeah. Yeah, This
is where people comment on the video and say, no way, man, they're totally not original.
Although it's weird that one hasn't got a stamp on it, but you see that every now and again.
I mean, you know, it's entirely possible, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
They get changed out, they get whatever.
So now,
you do the solder thing?
Yeah. Just this way, you don't have to worry about. But it kind of helps soften the wood around there, so you get less tear out and stuff. You can do it without it, but just to be doubly sure.
I know when we had our guitars done, Johnny did them.
Yeah.
There was quite a lot of consternation about doing that. So the point is to conduct the heat through the fret, so that it comes out, it melts the glue.
Yeah, it melts the glue. Just makes it easier to get it out without tearing any wood. Yeah.
Oh man, you can really. It's funny with strings on it. You don't really see, but I can just see. So how bad are these frets then?
Do you know they're not that bad. I mean, some people you see real pitting, but I mean, obviously it depends on your playing style. So people have been using quite a lot of vibrato. Whoever's been using, you and everybody else, because you can see for the pit, the pit goes in, but then it kind of is smoothed out. Yeah. And the main thing that happens when frets get flat is that, well, it's two things really. The one is that the string hits the back edge of the fret and flutters across the top. Now, even though that's a tiny amount of metal, it's still dulling the string slightly. Yeah, right. So if you then sort of recrown it, it's got a definite point that it just hits and then goes off. Also, you're shifting the intonation point slightly. Yeah. Again, these are all tiny things, but it's put them all together and they make a big thing.
Okay, Matt's going to switch on an extractor fan now, so it might be that
it's a wee bit noisy.
We have some extraneous noise. Happy days.
Our lungs will thank us.
Yeah.
It's my alarm to tell me to take the kids to school.
Okay, Matt's gonna. We're halfway down the net. I say we. The royal we are halfway down the fingerboard. Matt's just going to explain how he takes the frets out.
Cool. So what I'm doing here is adding some heat to the fret, starting at the middle, and then it will work our way out. Keep it nice and even. If there's any glue or anything, you'll see like that. See?
Yeah, it pops out.
Yeah. So that's again there.
Matt has kindly said we'll just turn the extractor fan off for this, for the sake of the audio, but rest assured the extractor fan is on for the rest of the process.
Yeah, I'm shortening my life for you guys.
And as we I think we said earlier, but the solder conducts the heat to melt the glue that's underneath.
Yeah, it just sort of softens the wood around it, so it makes it easier to pull out.
Then you just pinch along the edge, pull them out.
Pull them out, and there you go. And you don't get any tearing in the wood.
Yeah. So in terms of the ones you've seen before, how easy or straightforward or difficult has this one been so far?
This one's been super straightforward, super easy. I mean, it's obviously had work done before, and it was done well. So yeah, there's no problems here at all.
No big issues. And you say one of the potential issues is as you pull the fret out, you can pull some of the rosewood with it.
Yeah, you'll get, we call it tear out. Yeah. But you can, I don't know if there's any, you can usually save it. There's none's happened on this.
Yeah.
Before you'll see like little, sort of like little mountains.
And that's where you get into like getting a bit of dust together and...
Yeah, well, hopefully you can just push it back down and run some really thin super glue or similar glue in, and it will just seal it. And then you on most necks, I'd do a light reshoot, and then that's when you'd get rid of that. But it doesn't happen that often, as long as you follow the process as you need to. But yeah.
Wicked. Matt was just telling me a story, which I think would be a good time to reflect on it now. So. You worked at Chandler Guitars.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn your craft, working with Charlie.
Yeah.
Please tell us about the first job you were allowed to do for a customer.
Yeah, so it was, I was given a little baby Taylor, which I'd been told had been kept in a summer house for this guy, and the neck had moved as it would do. And I just needed to set it up, and so I did, and didn't think anything more of it. And then phone rings and Charlie speaks to this guy, which I found out later was Phil Taylor, who's David Gilmour's guitar tech, and this guitar was David Gilmour's. So yeah, that was my first customer experience, which was really cool, and I'm very glad that I hadn't been told before. Yeah. But it was cool because it kept, when that guitar came back a few times, and it always was given to me, and so it came back so many times that we actually had to put new necks on it, and I had the two baby Taylor necks that we'd switched out of it because it came out quite a few times, and those were, I had them on my wall for a bit.
No way. So not only was it his guitar, but it was one that he would use a lot.
Yeah, it was just in this conservatory or something. So obviously it got really hot and really cold, so it would just be moving around all the time. So yeah, it was good. That was fun.
Baptism by fire.
Yes. Seat of pants.
Here we are then, State of the Nation, so all the frets are out.
Yeah.
And you were saying that wasn't particularly difficult. You were explaining to me that sometimes the frets towards the bottom of the neck can be more difficult.
Yeah, typically, that last one was a little bugger, but it's typically that happens because the edge of the fingerboard and the frets get a bit more rounded there, so there's less to grip onto or get underneath, just because that's where most of us play most of the time. But yeah, everything went swimmingly. We got no tear out at all. So the next stage is to clean out the slots, because you can see there's some like gunk and bits of glue and stuff in there.
Yeah. Make
sure they're the right depth for the tang on the fret wire. So I've got this saw with basically just got a stop on it. Okay. So you adjust that to the size of the fret wire, run that through the slots, and then you're all good to go. And then it's radius the fret wire, cut it to length, and then we go from there.
Amazing. And I've said to Matt I want to go with the Dunlop 6105 or the 6105 profile wire, which I think I want. In a couple of my other Strats there's 6100s, and I like the feel of it, but I don't want to do that to this guitar. Yeah. And actually, I say I like the feel of it. I think I always prefer 6105, so just thinner, but there's about the same height,
about
would you
say?
Height,
yeah. Yeah, it's, what is it, 50, I can't remember, 55 wide, 90 wide, 55 tall, I think, or other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's basically kind of vintage width, but then you get the benefit of the height, so you can get your fingers underneath it. It makes it a lot more easy to play. The downside of having fret wire that's higher is that you've got to be lighter with your touch. Yeah. Which is it's the similar thing to the scalloped thing. Yeah. You have to be really light, which then allows you to be quicker.
Yeah. I think I'm just used to playing a fret wire that's slightly bigger. And that's maybe the issue I was having with the action of the guitar, like feeling like I couldn't get under the strings, isn't an action issue at all. Yeah. It's a fret height issue. That will remain to be seen. I like your Fretosaurus there. What's that for?
Yeah, so this is basically, it's an offcut from a guitar that one of the guys who used to work with me built, and we just drilled holes in it, just so we can cut the frets and put them in there, so we know we've got the right amount.
I'll do a shot of that in a second.
Yeah, there's loads of
How
little
many
bits.
slots you got?
24.
24, yeah, okay. We're only going up to here.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But the amount of times when I did them before, I'd cut them as I go, or just like line them out, and then 9 times out of 10 you'd be one short or whatever, because my concentration I'll be counting and then I'll be thinking about something else.
That sports day.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you've got one of these.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen one of these in a video.
That's
Ooh, this is exciting.
yeah. I bought but the reason I was able to start doing repairs on my own was, I mean, it's a sad but also a beautiful thing. So my gran died in 2003, around then, and she left us all £2,000 when we turned 21. I'd already turned 21, so I got it when she passed.
Oh, bless her.
And I spent all of it on tools.
No way.
So most of them I've still got. The only ones I don't use anymore are the nut files because they're blunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything like this, that, saw. I even bought a Taylor fret buck. Have you ever seen one of those? No. So it's like this. So this thing, I don't know if they make them anymore. It's actually really useful. It's for when you're refretting acoustics. So you put this on the top, and then you've got this little arm underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Which then goes underneath the fingerboard, so you don't get that bounce and everything's protected.
Huh.
But yeah, most of the other tools I use are, bought from Homebase and stuff, but the guitar-specific ones, it was all from there, which is really cool.
Oh, what a lovely memory to have of her.
Yeah, it's really cool.
She's kind of helped you.
Well, she's helped me build my business,
Yeah.
My life is the way it is now, partly because of that.
Oh, what a lovely story.
Yeah, it's really cool. Right, let's cut the fret wire. See, I just use about that much. I wish I could get this in straight bits of tube.
Oh yeah.
It'd be so much easier.
But then I guess you buy it pre-bent.
Yeah.
To make the radiusing easier thereafter. Yeah.
Right. So we just cut a little bit off.
Right. Okay. I'm going to brave the handheld for this, I think.
Cool. So what I'm doing here is just measuring the tang to see if it's gonna. I think we should be all right actually with it where it is. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
So you measure the depth of the tang so that you can then run that saw through the slot.
Yeah.
And not saw into the neck.
Exactly. That's the plan. That's the plan. So the way to do it is.
Good. Look,
yeah.
There's a saw on my 61 Strat neck.
Okay,
I've been cool right up until this point.
Okay, so pulling it this way and then pushing it this way so you don't tear out anything from the edges.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, there's literally no resistance there, so
great.
We're all good. I think.
Anyone of a nervous disposition, this is the comment point on the video, I think.
But yeah, I've had customers come in and want to watch the refit, which is absolutely fine. But yeah, it's always this point that they'll be maybe hiding behind their hands.
It's like wanting to watch a hip replacement.
Yeah.
I always think of concert instruments at this point.
Yeah.
Things like violins, cellos and stuff. These borderline priceless pieces of history that are brutally modified, repaired, worked on in order that they remain useful as musical instruments.
Yeah, that's because that's their purpose.
Yeah, right. I feel the same way. I've said this a lot, but me and Dan both say it. We are custodians of these things. and somebody in the future will own them. So we treat them with respect, but we should use them.
Yeah.
They're no good in museums.
No.
I don't think.
No, I mean, they're made to be played, help people create and, escape and be their, happy place, whatever.
So a question on rosewood fingerboards then.
Yeah.
I've got a 70 Strat that's basically, obviously it's a veneer board in the first place, but there's almost nothing left of it. So the tangs are right into the maple. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on that as a repairing challenge, but also as a tonal difference? Do you hear anything?
I don't. I mean, you can say. I mean, there is the old saying that everything makes a difference, isn't there? But I would say, from a repairing point of view, I would go about it the same way. Yeah. I think you'd be better just keeping it as it is. So if you wanted to refret it, just put new frets in. Don't worry about it. Than putting a new board on it. Yeah. The slots are already in the maple, so I would leave it be. But sonically, I mean, there must be maybe some kind of difference, but to A/B that would be so difficult.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about fretwire, so Matt showed me this gold fretwire that's super interesting. Apparently, it's almost got the hardness of stainless steel, but is easier to work.
Yeah, it's this Evo Gold stuff. It's made by a company called Jescar.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, this is the fretwire. Jescar make the fretwire that we're putting in yours, but it's exactly the same size. Yeah. Just their consistencies are, the consistency is really good. Yeah. But that fretwire is almost as hard as stainless steel, but doesn't affect the tone. Yeah. If you refret a guitar, so if we change this, put stainless steel frets in, you would notice the tops being enhanced, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. But with the other wire, it doesn't change it at all. Wow. And on my personal guitars, that's what I've got. Yeah. On my main telly, which is like a silver sparkly thing, I just put that in there, and I was gigging it for 4 years. There's no wear on it at all.
No way.
And I would fret dress my own guitars before then every 3 to 6 months. Yeah. To get rid of all the stuff. So it's cool. Also, it's got no nickel in it, so nickel allergies.
Oh, for nickel. That's great. Yeah. If it wasn't for the aesthetic of it, I would totally have gone for it. Yeah, but
you can't. It's a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I find that whole discussion interesting in the vein of those videos that get made that say nothing makes any difference on the guitar except the pickups. I think we all know that that's probably not true.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything does. Yeah. The thing that makes the biggest difference out of anything is the way that it's set up. Right. More than anything, because you can have a guitar that's really low, the strings are really low or just out of balance, and then the strings aren't going to be vibrating as they should be, so you're going to be getting like intonation issues, zinging, all that kind of stuff, like weird notes going on. As long as the guitar's set up as right, then if you don't like the sound, then that's when to tweak it. Yeah, right. Don't spend tons of cash on different bridges, pickups, whatever, if your guitar's not set up right.
Fascinating.
That's the first port of call.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, that chimes exactly with my experience with my blue Strat. Bridges, pickups, the whole thing, and then it has a refret, and all of a sudden I'm in love with it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So, fascinating. But we certainly had that experience with Dan's guitar. He had 6100s put in it, the red telly. Yeah. It came back, and some days you'll go in and we'll film, and I'll be like, sounds a bit bright today, but that might just be a day-on-day thing. Yeah. But after about 2 or 3 filming sessions, I'm like, that guitar is different. Yeah. And he had it put back to 6105s. Made a massive difference, actually.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, all this sonics, and there is that the thing of how you're feeling on the day. Yeah. Because I mean, I've played my guitar before and gone, it's just great. I don't need to do anything on it. And then another day, I'll be feeling slightly different, and I'll be like, it just sounds really rubbish. Yeah. There is that element of it.
So what do? You go a few days just to test yourself.
Yeah. The thing is, I know with with that guitar in particular, I know that it does sound good, but it's just some days my head's just telling me, you know, so just complain about something, moan about something.
Here's the machine that goes ping.
Yeah. There's always one. Actually, that's going to be... It's getting too steep. Yeah, way too steep. Yeah, I had this set up for the Jescar wire, which you need to have set way steeper.
Okay. So this essentially radiuses the frets?
Yeah. So there's already a radius in it, but it's not right for this neck.
Yeah, it's much tighter than it needs to be.
So actually, yeah, so we actually need to make it tighter. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can see if you put it on the middle, there's
Yeah.
gaps either side.
God, I never would have thought that.
Yeah. So it's a lot tighter. But you want it actually to be a little bit tighter than the radius, so it goes in like this and you push it out.
Yeah, right.
Well, the way I do it, some people do use a clamp type jig.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is great, but I just, wasn't taught that way.
I think you need the obligatory reversing lorry beep in the background as well,
of course.
just to
prove that we're on an industrial estate.
Yeah. I think it creates a sense of tension and drama as well.
Yeah.
For the
Sounds a little bit like an Inspector Morse episode.
Yeah.
Right. Cool, so that should be...
So you've just wound that through?
Yeah. It's just going to make it a little bit tighter. That'd be a good plug-in, like a reversing lorry beep reducer.
Oh, I'm quite sure it all exists. Isotope probably make it already. They are astonishing, the plugins for all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm just getting into that whole thing. So here we go. I think we've got it. I think we've got it now. Yep, spot on. Just chop the end bit off because the end bit's never radiused the same. So, and also we can use it for something. So you just want to cut the fret so it's just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's one, move it down.
Oh, I see. That's what you use the end bit for. It's like, here, this is
It's
where
literally,
I am.
yeah, no, I don't. My mind wanders like all the time. So
Yeah,
I've just,
you know, 1, 2, and 3, you're going to remember, aren't you?
Yeah.
9, 10, and 11, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Or if I'm I listen to loads of like podcasts and audiobooks, so I could be doing this and then getting well into, you know, what's going on in Mordor or whatever, and you know.
How many refrets do you reckon you've done then?
I don't know. Like literally, I started. When was my first refret? Would have been like 2002, something like that. I mean, and at times I was doing 3, 4 a day.
No
so
way.
Lots.
No way. I have to say, I was surprised when, you know, so I got in touch with Matt and said, you know, would you be up for doing the Strat? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay, I'll arrange to drop it off with you. And he's like, no, just come up, and if you've got a few hours, stay and I'll do it while you wait. I'm like, really? Is that actually possible?
Yeah. I think I timed myself once, and I got frets out and back in like 40 minutes.
No way.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend Neville yesterday. So Neville was the editor of Guitarist when I started there. And he worked at Fender and Gibson, and he said they used to allow 4 hours.
Okay.
If they were going to charge it out as a job. But
Yeah.
I was surprised by that, just because it's funny. I've watched videos on it. I've seen it being done before, but yeah, nevertheless surprised.
No, it's just with that. I mean, that's with everything going completely smoothly.
Right, because you don't know.
Because you don't know. I mean, we could have got to this, and we could have had bits falling off, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But if everything goes to plan, it's relatively swift, and the process is the same on. Well, you change it slightly for maple and again for bound
boards, yeah.
But generally, it's the same. So you're just following this same thing. If you veer off that path, then you get out of like rhythm.
What are the hardest guitars to refret?
Old Gretches,
right.
I'd say, and stuff like that, like the old like Hofners and things, because they are more hardy than you think, but especially when you've got the end of the neck is floating, and you've got to like put frets in there. That's really tricky, and like you have to pack underneath it.
Because you have to hammer them in.
Yeah. Which is always a bit worrying. You sort of constantly looking down, looking for cracks and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they're kind of acoustics are pretty tricky, but with that fret buck thing, makes it really easy.
So yeah, right tools.
Yeah.
Like anything, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. See, 21.
21.
Didn't miss any.
Unbelievable. And I was trying to distract you all the way through as well.
Yeah, I'll leave that out just in case we need some spare. Yeah. Now it's just getting the blighters in. So.
Do you hammer them in, or do you use a press?
I hammer them in.
Yeah.
I've tried the whole press thing. I didn't get on with it. I know some people who do, and it's great. But for me, I've been using this for 20 years. It's got new ends and new bits. It's like Trigger's broom.
Yeah.
Just got to get something.
Okay, so we're out. We're cleaned.
We're clean. I'm just getting some glue into a pipette just to put a few dots in the slots, just to help hold it. When you're making a new neck, you don't necessarily need to do that because the slots are really tight.
Super tight.
Yeah, but especially if it's had a few refrets, it just helps. Now, I usually, on a modern guitar, I would usually do a light reshoot on the board, but obviously because this is an old one, and we do have a little issue with the fingerboard being thin at this end. I'm just going to literally use this file, run over the top quickly, just to get rid of any like little marks and stuff that are going to stop the frets going in. This is like super light.
Yeah.
Also, I don't want to tear anything out.
Yeah. And is that typical for a board of this period?
Yeah.
You're not seeing anything unusual?
No, nothing at all.
That's good news.
Yeah, everything's all good.
That's what we like.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some that are a little bit wonky donkey.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily mean from an authenticity point of view, more from a kind of in condition point of view.
Yeah, condition. It's kind of is fairly normal. Even this, as we said earlier, is pretty normal.
You would expect it to have some of that. Yeah.
So now it's time to get the frets in. So what you do, I put a small dot on one end, one in the middle, and then one on the other end. And again, this is like a tiny amount.
Yeah.
Seat the fret in, and then from the middle out, so you're kind of going. And you'll hear a change when it's seated.
When it's in. Any RSI at all, Matt?
I have. Yeah. That's one thing, especially with fret dressing, which you do as a repair guy. That's every day you'll be doing that.
Yeah.
And I ended up with problems with my thumb and like the muscle in there and the muscle here, because you're gripping files all the time. I mean, you'll see later just the funny positions your hands get into when you're doing it. So if you're doing that lots and lots, you have to be careful.
We bought for that pedal show store, we bought a paper tape dispensing machine. So it comes out gummed and printed, because Catherine was doing hundreds and hundreds of tape gun pulls day after day after day, and it completely ruined her elbow.
I hadn't thought about that, because might need to invest in one of those myself.
Oh mate, I'll give you it's literally the best thing we've ever owned.
We've had
almost including this guitar. You press the button and it's got buttons on the top, and it comes out in whatever length you want it to come out in. So if you want 15 centimeters, you hit the 15 button.
Oh, that's amazing.
Or you can put custom lengths in, you know. That's how clever it is.
Yeah, that's that. It's that geeky stuff. Oh man, it's the game changers. Right. So seat you. Again from the middle out. Why you been a pain in my ass?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See.
I can hear that. Yeah. Oh, look at that lovely height on me frets. Lovely height on me frets.
Cool. So just a little bit of glue.
Because presumably as you knock it in, that glue will dissipate.
Yeah, exactly. At some point, I can't remember what period it was, but Gibson were using a glue that when you heat it up to take the frets out, it goes really soft, but then turns into a resin almost.
Oh, wow.
So when you're doing some Gibsons, especially the bound ones, you have to heat it up. And then I've got this little tool, which is, where is it? Like that. Yeah. So you literally heat it up, take the fret out, and then get it, because if you don't get it then, you've literally got no hope in hell of getting it out.
And all those things were discovered the hard way.
Exactly. There you go. Amazing.
Cool. I think we'll come back when these are all in.
Wicked.
Okay, state of the nation. So you've knocked all the frets in.
All the frets are in. As you can see, they're a little bit on the long side. So
sharp ends.
Yeah. Your fingers will be falling off. So I'm just going to cut them down and then put a bit of glue on the ends of that. And then start filing them down so they're nice and flush. So let's get at it.
Amazeballs.
Cool. So I've got these cutters that will cut pretty close. So what you want to do is putting a bit of pressure on the top of it, pushing down.
Yeah.
And it's
so that you don't pull it out of the slot.
Yeah. You have to be pretty careful that you keep it flush.
And you don't take the edge of the fingerboard off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is where I stopped talking to you.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is the bits that come off, if you don't take them away, put them away and put them in the bin, you can easily move the neck and then they'll sort of press into the wood.
Yeah, wow.
All of these tips have come about because I've done all of them.
Yeah, it's you know, I know it's often said, but with any job that requires this sort of skill and experience, you're not paying for the job, are you? You're paying for the experience. You're paying for the 1,000 times you've done it.
Yeah.
And everything you've learned.
Yeah, it's that succeed or fail. I kind of think it as succeed or learn.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. I think also whenever I do anything sort of manual, whether it's I don't know, putting in a fence or trying to do guitar work, when the errors start happening, then you get the compound errors. Mm-hmm. So something starts going wrong, and then it really starts going wrong.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
time to stop.
Yeah. But knowing that time is again, that's something that you have to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible for it. I'm like no, I'll fix it. I'll do this, and yeah, you have to learn when to step away. Wicked. So I've cut all the ends off and then just put some just glue on the edges of them.
Yep.
What that does is it means that when we file them down, you'll get all of the gaps will be filled that are around the frets, and you'll get a really, really nice finish.
Nice. I'm always amazed how much super glue is used in guitar repair.
Oh, it's amazing.
What's your favourite compound?
Compound? I use the one that I use the most. Well, we use two. The best one's this really runny stuff. That's stuff you can build up nuts with and stuff.
422, 402?
Oh, I don't even know the numbers.
There's one that takes longer to go off, isn't there?
We use... this one's set time's about 5 to 15 seconds.
So you can use that for finish repairs and stuff?
Yeah. But I also I've got like an activator. So you can literally just put it on, spray it on, and it's set. It's, handy stuff. Super glue and double-sided sticky tape.
Yeah, you can put a leg back on with that stuff,
But
right?
then basically, I feel like I'm in Blue Peter.
Yeah.
Right, so the next thing to do now is just to start filing them down so we can get them all comfortable. And I do that, I've got 3 files I use. So one that's really coarse, and then one that's less coarse, and then one that like hardly takes off anything. But yeah, let's get at it. Also, this is the time that if I'm going to injure myself, I will end up cutting myself.
This is it.
This is it.
Catch a fret.
Yeah, you catch a fret or you slip off and you end up with scratches and stuff. This would be putting the angle into it as well. So. You have to be really careful with this because this file takes off a lot of metal quite quickly.
A lot, yeah.
But also, because you've got more frets down here, it works slower, takes longer at this area than here.
Of course.
So, especially when I was starting out, there'd be so many times I'd be like right on the limit here and still have loads there. So you've got to kind of keep...
So this is the kind of stuff that just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
Once you've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's just, but it's one of the things it was pointed out to me when I was learning. It was, you have to look at this, just be careful. Actually, a good trick is, have you got any paper? If you get some paper or something light or white underneath it when you're doing it, you can kind of really easily see the gap between the file and the neck. Cool, that's that one done.
I mean, obviously this is just taking off the bulk of the excess material before we get into shaping and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular approach to the shape? Or should we get to that in a bit when you start doing it?
Yeah, I've got... there's a way I do it particularly.
Okay.
But we'll get to it. In fact, this is the one... This file was given to me when I started by Charlie, and this is... this is the one thing that if I lost this, I would kind of feel very naked. But yeah, like the fret end shape is like a mild obsession of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit...
I always think it's a bit like it's almost like your signature or your calling card or your...
Yeah. Cool, so we're pretty much there. I've just got to get rid of those final end bits.
Yeah.
And then we can flip it onto the fret dressing and everything which is kind of the next.
So you were saying that you go down with each one of those files to the
Mm-hmm.
point where it's flush, and you're just seeing the end of the glue that you've put.
Yeah, you're aiming to get rid of that sort of that little half moon, well, yeah, that sort of semicircle bit of glue.
Yeah.
And once that's gone, you'll see it slowly, and then it will go. As soon as it's gone, it means that that's all flat, and the glue has surrounded the end of the fret, which makes it feel smooth, like it's finished, got finish on it, basically. But yeah, just a bit more.
I think one of the things we've remarked on in previous videos, watching Johnny do this as well, it's like that level of experience of working with hand tools in this way is you're definite, and you're actually, the tool is doing something and you're not being shy with it, yet you've got the precision and the experience and the care.
Yeah.
And that's, for any of us not used to doing that, you'll be super ginger with it, and
yeah, exactly.
that's when the mistakes
It's also, as we were talking about earlier about RSI and stuff, so this is one of them. So I hold the file like that, so there's quite a lot of tension on my thumb and these fingers, so that's why I got all these problems around here.
Yeah, okay.
And also with fret rounding over files and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, because my fingers are underneath, sort of cupping the neck, so you keep it, you know where they are.
Yeah.
Keep those out. So now we'll clean it down and then fret dress. First things first, I'm just going to check where the truss rod is.
Okay, I'm really interested in this because I think it's as loose as it can go.
Okay.
But you may well be able to tell me otherwise.
Yeah. So what you want to do, the best thing to do is to find the biting point. So exactly when it starts to work.
Yeah.
So got that. I'm just going to check how flat it is.
It was off.
It was off.
The biting point.
Yeah, it was way off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
okay.
So this is my very expensive fret leveling file.
Hey man, you should be using a straight edge.
Okay, so
this is like DIY SOS Gold, isn't it?
So actually, at the minute, it's dead flat. So should be.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that is good. Ideally, what you want is it to be dead flat when you've got about an 1/8 to 1/4 turn on it on the truss rod.
So you've got somewhere to go.
Yeah. So you've got somewhere to go back. I'm just going to see what it does if we do just a little bit. Okay, that's cool.
So it's working.
Yeah, it's all good. So now we've got to do, well, first of all, as we're going to be replacing nut, I'm going to take that off and then get dressing.
There's probably an I'm relieved gag in there somewhere, isn't there?
What a relief. Yeah, so what I do is just get the fret pulling files, and you can, is there a finish on that? So there's a little bit of finish on it, so what you need to do is just score it. And like if you were doing this on a Les Paul or whatever, I would just go around the edges.
Yeah.
But everything else looks fine.
I did it on my blue Strat once, pulled the nut out and pulled a load of the fingerboard out.
Yeah. I've done that many times.
I know when we watched Johnny Kincaid do it, he saws through the centre of it.
Okay.
Which
yeah, I've seen people do that. And then knock it in from either side, right?
Yeah. Do you reckon that's the original nut then?
Could quite possibly be. Because it's, I mean, the slots are so deep. It's obviously had a lot of work done.
Yeah, it was causing me some consternation.
Yeah. The
to put it politely.
I mean, the slots were so low. I mean, the high E string was about all right, but everything else was way too low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is.
There she is.
So it has been shimmed by the looks
Yeah,
of it,
yeah, yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, look, I could see something sticking out. And then just get this stuff out.
So what's that, like a little piece of paper or something?
Yeah.
A little bit of plastic or something?
I think it's
the lining to Leo Fender's lunchbox, isn't it? That's what it is.
yeah.
Genuine Fender lunchbox liner.
Yeah, that's it's a type of plastic, something. So it could quite be.
Look at this tone inhibition. It's actually got the blood of Leo Fender on it. We can clone this and
recreate Leo.
I love that. We did an April Fool's gag in Guitarist once, which said he was stationed in England during the war, and he came up with two other guitar designs that never got released: the Tadcaster and the Doncaster.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm just clearing out all the goop and glue.
Cool. That's interesting. So if you can see, I'm going to hold this up. Hopefully the camera will focus on it eventually. If you look, the bottom of the nut is radiused as well. I'd always assume the bottom of the nut would be flat.
Yeah.
Is that always the case?
Mm-hmm. On these ones, lots of the modern ones are flat.
Yeah, it certainly was on my vintage reissue. It was flat.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. There's another 0.003% of the tone soup.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a crack of pepper. This is. Oh wow! So they obviously cut the nut slot.
Yeah.
On some sort of
machine.
Have
you seen the jig for cutting the fret slots and stuff? It was just like
on a big swing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So that means you've got to radius the underneath side of the nut then.
I mean, we'll go into it more a bit later, but the way I do it is I get the thickness right first, and then you can drop it into the slot. Then you make you draw the radius on the top, and then I'll rough it out on a belt sander, and then because the radius is the same as the fingerboard, so then put some,
because it would have been done on the same.
Yeah. So you do some coarse stuff on there, coarse sandpaper on there, and that's when you fine tune it, and then do the ends and etc. etc. Cool. So
every day's a school day, man.
For the fret dressing, what I like to do is just get like a Sharpie or some sort of pen on the top, and then you can really, really easily see.
You can see.
Yeah, and red comes out. Sort of visually, you can see it a lot easier than any other.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be very careful not to draw on the fingerboard.
Yeah, I'm just not looking.
Yeah, I mean, some people like tape up the whole board to do fret dresses and stuff, but I just never started to. Was never shown that way in the first place. So kind of. So, just going to double check it.
Oh, I see. So you've got a bit of sandpaper taped to the bottom of your straight edge.
Exactly. So it's an 80 grit, 80 grit sandpaper.
80. So that's going to take off quite a lot then.
A fair amount, but this has been. I kind of blunt it first.
Yeah.
So it's not actually. It's sort of smoothed off, but this stuff's really good. It's got a fabric backing, so it's like super tough. And back when I was doing lots and lots of fret dresses and refrets, I'd change one of these every couple of months. but you know, it lasts a long, long time.
Just before you start then, so we've got the truss rod to the point where the neck is as flat as it can be.
Yeah, so I've
in order to do this stage.
Exactly. I've put it on a little bit, so again, we have somewhere to go back if you need to. But it's still pretty flat. So we're just going to take it down. So what I'm looking for is to get all of these level, and then what I do is definitely do like one stage of Fallaway. So that's where you take a little bit more off here, which makes these notes ring out a bit more clearly. And on some guitars, if they do, potentially have a crazy kick up, or the player plays a lot up there, do a second lot of Fallaway. But yeah, it kind of just depends what they...
There is absolutely no worry whatsoever with me being up there very much.
Right, let's get at it. So the way I do it is I go sort of all the way across here, then 2/3 back, 1/3 over, and then all the way back. And I find that keeps it more even. If I just go backwards and forwards, for some reason, I don't know why, I always end up taking more off the edges and making the radius steeper. So this is how I keep it even. So. Cool, so you can see now, so we've taken off just that one pass, started here, got this area here, and kind of touched most of the places. Still a little bit to go here. But yeah, so it's not going to take too long.
And this is so that we end up with a flat before we do any shaping and
exactly.
finishing. And
So this means that you know that the base is solid and you've got no worries there, and then the setup and everything going on from this is going to be hopefully really straightforward. So still, that's all got, there's a little dip there, this fret's a little low. Yeah, so got a little bit there, and then it's all good.
So you keep going until there's no pen left?
Basically, Another good thing about using one of these, as opposed to like a heavy bar or anything, is that if there's a lump in the neck, if you're using something heavy, it's going to push the neck down and push any lumps out, and then so it will look like it's done, and then they'll just come back. Whereas this, I'm literally just using the weight of the file, not really pushing into it or anything.
So you're not essentially, you're not bending the neck.
Exactly. And it costs like £7.
So if you were doing a fret dress on your existing guitar, i.e. not a refret, this is the point you'd pick it up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. But the one other thing, if this was a modern guitar, I said about doing a slight reshoot of it. That's why this would be, it would be even quicker, this part, once you've done that.
Because the board would be flatter before you put the frets in.
Exactly, yeah. But you don't want to do it on something like this, so there is a little bit more natural wobble.
Yeah.
Cool, that's all being touched is really light. There's only one that's really light here. But we'll get that, that's being touched, but also get that in the Fallaway. And then there's these bits here, which that will be all taken care of in the Fallaway.
Yeah, because you don't want to take too much off.
No.
Yeah, otherwise then we lose the height of our frets.
Exactly. So, another super expensive piece of equipment. It's just a block of plywood. Again, with that same stuff stuck on it on one side, and it's got some rather used 400 on the other, which just starts the polishing process. So you can get rid of you. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is to hit like a V up sort of by the 12th and then go down. It's really, that is about it really. Just gonna do a little bit more. Cool.
And even just that is enough to get a little bit
Yeah,
fall off.
it's like a, I've got a phrase, it's not very, I call it a gnat's cock.
Yeah.
It's literally just that's the phrase.
I mean, like, with due respect to all gnats.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what you're looking for. It's not a huge thing. It was a producer friend of mine taught me that saying. Yeah. It was the first time I was in a studio actually, and he was recording the guitar, and he was just like, "You just need a gnat's cock more of that, just a little bit." And it was like, it stayed with me for that since then. Cool. So yeah, that's all done.
Wow.
So now I'll hoover this down, get rid of all the dust, and then put some more pen on it, and then we'll reprofile them. And you're laughing. Let's put the red pen back on it.
Yep.
And it's literally just reprofiling.
So because you've used the Fat Max to get them level, they're now flat on the top, and we don't want that. We want them to be crowned.
Exactly. So you've got a nice central point, which is not only your intonation point, but also means that the string's got just a tiny bit of metal to hit, and then also go off and do the rest of its thing.
And you said this is a tool that you bought with your grant's money as well.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, still use it. It's kind of one of those ones. It's because I've used this literally since I started, really. I just know how it works all the time. You know, it's blunt, as I was saying earlier, but it still works for me. I've got new ones and stuff, and they just don't feel the same.
Do people have preferences for crown profile?
Not really.
I've never thought about it.
Yeah, but techs have more of a thing for it. I like it really nice and round. Some people like it pyramid shaped. Some people, they use like this Z file, which is a different. You end up with a different finish. Yeah. But for me, I just like it nice and round. It feels more comfortable. Again, with this, you want to make a pass and then keep checking. It's all about keep checking, keep checking.
Yeah, because I guess you could potentially undo all the work you've just done.
Exactly. Yeah. So in an ideal world, what you're looking for is to get this so it's sort of a super thin line, and then you do one more pass and it's gone. Right. And that's in an ideal world for me. But what typically happens is you can end up getting the ends to that point first, and then the middle you've just got to do loads more work on. I would leave it like that. I'm going to go through other stages of using different sandpapers and stuff to buff it up, but that'll be cool.
That's the first.
First of many.
Okay, we will return.
Cool. So that everything's been recrowned. I'm just going to smooth off these end bits a little bit more because I think we're nearly there. And then we can do the fret ends properly and get the shape, and then it's polishing the frets up, and away we go.
So that's your little tiny file now that
this is like
that Charlie gave you.
Yeah, this is my first file. It's like one of those things. But so this is blunt as anything, but we're just fine tuning that end, the tang.
Yeah.
You want to get it so when you pass it, you don't feel any friction.
This is that bit when you buy a guitar and you get it home and you shred the ends of your fingers.
Yeah.
Hopefully that fingerboard isn't going to shrink.
Hopefully, yeah. But that's with lots of guitars, they don't dry the woods out fully, so there's still room for it to move. Yeah. and unfortunately, metal doesn't do that. Cool.
Wow.
Right, so fret ends. What I like to do. So this is a standard sort of needle file.
I'm just going to grab the camera and get in on this because I find this fascinating.
Cool. So yeah, it's a standard needle file, nothing fancy at all, but just one side's being ground down and polished up.
Yeah.
So what I do is going sort of start the file like this and then twisting it down so it ends up like that.
Right.
And that way you get right into this bottom corner. This bit here is the hardest part to...
And I love that because you're being so definite about that, but you're not fouling the fingerboard.
Yeah, exactly. And because it's got a round bottom, it's the file's round on the bottom, it doesn't... Yeah. You're not going to cut into it or anything.
Wow, look at that. I mean, even here, I can already see, even from here, the difference that's made.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
So if you run your fingers across this one, this is like still sharp as anything, but there, we're going to do some more shaping too, but yeah, that's fine.
Oh man.
There you go. So now I just run down the neck.
I feel like I'm getting my own personal episode of The Repair Shop.
That's a cool show.
That's amazing. That is how fast these working people are. I haven't sped this up. Wow. I sound like Dan. Wow.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed when he was in. That guitar sounded really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, there's one behind you, and I.
Yeah. That was given to me by a guy called Steve Donnelly, he was a session guy, played all the early Sheryl Crow stuff,
yeah,
and
I know that name.
Bonnie Raitt.
Oh well.
Bonnie Raitt, and
that's the classic getting Bonnie Raitt and Bonnie Tyler mixed up.
Yeah, it was it. Was it which Bonnie? And yeah, like loads and loads of people, and you know, it's one of the such a nice guitar player and nice person. But yeah, he gave me that. It had like no pickups in it. All the electrics were all being ripped out.
Yeah, so now all that stuff you're saying about RSI starts to make sense.
Yeah.
Because that's one position for forever.
Yeah.
Blimey O'Reilly. So people, we've said it in the videos before, we'll say it again. If you ever moan about how much your guitar costs to get repaired, look at the work and the flipping years of skill that's gone into this.
I haven't gone crazy on the angle on the frets, so when we finish and you play it, yeah, don't be afraid to say if you want them a bit more in. It won't take very long.
Yeah.
But this just gives you kind of the ideal playing area.
So we'll pick it up then. Matt has gone down the end of the frets.
Yep.
With the little file where you went around the edges.
Yep.
And then you use the
fret reprofiling file just to give the top a nice rounded feel. You do something. It's called I was told it was called a carpenter's curve. So you have the file like this, and then you drop your hand down, and that kind of rounds it over. Whether it's actually called that or not, that's what I call it. Yeah, so that's all done. They're all smooth, and we can then start polishing it up.
And given that most of the process we've just seen after the frets are installed are about fret dress, on your own personal guitars, how many times would you do a fret dress before you would refret?
I'd do as many as I could because I'm kind of lazy when it comes to my own stuff. Yeah, it's cobbler's shoes. So I would literally, it would just patch stuff together. I mean, if you play, it's not so bad now, but if you played my main guitar before I had guys working with me that I could trust to do the stuff, it was hideous. It was all clacky, and pickups were wrong heights, everything, intonation I didn't really care about. It was literally just as long as it worked, it was fine. But then when I got guys that I could trust to, that could work on my stuff, and I could trust them with that, it was like a complete game changer, because then my stuff was as good as the stuff that I was doing for other people.
That's interesting.
But yeah.
That's interesting. So, but I suppose for other people, it depends how you play, how hard you play, which frets you wear.
Yeah.
And because I guess it's literally down to how deep you go into the frets in order for that dress to be necessary.
Exactly. I mean, I would say the thing it's when it becomes a problem, when there is a problem, that's when to get something done. If you've got a bit of wear, it's okay. Just when you start noticing notes being dull, or intonation being out, or just being harder to play, that's when to do something. As much as my accountant would want me to tell you to get it fret dressed every 2 weeks, Come on. Never goes according to plan.
So everything we've seen so far is files.
Files. We're going to be still using a bit of files.
Actually, not quite true, because you did the first one with paper, didn't you?
Yeah. So we go back to sandpaper. You can do this a few ways, but this is kind of the safest way I find. So I've got is some 400 grit sandpaper, and you wrap it really tightly around the bottom of the profiling file that you profiled the frets with. Keep it like that, and then it's just a case of kind of doing the same thing again. So I'm polishing them up with this, and you'll notice at one point it'll start to sound different.
Yeah, it sounds smooth.
Yeah.
I can hear that clearly from here. Yeah, wow.
And you can see it started to.
That's just stage one.
Yeah, so that's stage one, and then literally you're going to go all the way down the neck, do that, and then we'll do a couple of other things that just with some smoother sandpaper, that we don't need to be as precise with that as this, and then then it's buffing wheel and away we go. Super shiny new frets.
Happy days. Okay, so 400 we've just finished with.
400, yep, and then I've got 800 and 1200, and then we've got some triple O wire. We're basically the finest wire wool you can get. Yeah. So we're going to do, I'm just going to rub these over the top of the frets and do the fret ends, not using the file. Yeah. They're not going to take any wood off or anything. It's going to be absolutely fine, and then go over with that, and then we're going to buff them up, and after that, obviously I've got to make the nut, but that we're pretty much done.
Amazing. So just, it's now 12:15, and we started this at about 8 AM, was it? Half 7, something like that?
Something like that.
Amazing.
Yeah, obviously
and we've been messing about and chatting in between all of this, so...
Yeah, but on a good day, all going well, I could do about 3 of these in a day.
Wow. Would you batch do them?
No.
You'd start one and finish it?
Yeah, with this kind of work, I'd always do it like that.
Yeah.
When I'm doing things like, putting pickups together or anything like that, that's when I'll batch then. But for this, just for the way my head works, I need to go through ABC. Yeah. But yeah, cool. So it's just, start with the 800. Let's get a little, not precise or anything. Again, I'm not putting any force into it really.
Is this a feel thing as well? You can kind of feel it?
Yeah. All of this kind of side of it is, you'll do it until it's right. I'm just getting the tops.
And again, there's probably people watching going, oh my God, why haven't you masked off the fingerboard? And you haven't masked off the fingerboard because you'll clean it up afterwards?
Yeah, it's all going to be cleaned off. This is going to be taking off literally nothing.
Microns.
And also, it kind of there are a few bits on the board, like the dots and stuff, and it just gets rid of all that too. So it's kind of all good. As I said, I'm not really pushing into it or anything. Of course, that's that. Got some 1200. I mean, I know guys, and I've done it myself in the past, that have done this with the 400 too.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely fine. Fret ends feel good though. This is the other thing, when you do stuff like that, you get to feel it like it's going, when people are going to be playing it.
And I guess that's the benefit of having done it so many times, isn't it? You just get a almost like a sixth sense of what's going to work and what's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a sixth sense, it's just experience.
Yeah. Well, now, just wire wool.
Look at that. Oh my God. I have to say, I'm pretty excited. As you know, I love this guitar, but it has always been a little bit of a struggle to play, so no pressure.
Change of pants, please.
Oh man, look at that.
Cool, so I do it with the wire wool, I do it with one piece going down and another fresh piece going the way back the way up.
Wow. And with the wire wool, you're going up and down the fret, not across the fret.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I guess the polishing, do you use a compound when you polish?
Yeah. I mean, it's because I'll do it one of two ways. I'll either just get like T-cut and put it on the frets and buff it, or I've got a tiny little buffing wheel which I use as well. Both results are really good.
Yeah. You know, I think T-cut is much underappreciated in guitar, in the guitar world. I can remember polishing some frets once and saying I'll use T-cut, and people were like, you can't use that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can.
Yeah, you can. In fact, we'll do it on this one. But yeah, so that's them all now, and then we'll T-cut them.
Look at that. Oh, there you are. There you are, frets.
Yeah. Think of all the notes you'll be playing.
Yeah. I did learn one.
Cool, so get a bit, and you can literally just put it all the way down. Always put the lid back on because it will guarantee it will spill, and then
it's like decorating a room, you know, but you take all the old paint off or whatever and give it a scrape and do the filling, and you look at it, you're like, this room's never going to look nice again.
Yeah.
And that was like when all the frets were out and you can see all the slots and everything. It's like, oh God.
Yeah.
And then look at it. I know we're not even there yet. Oh, it's too cool, man. Look at that old thing. How old are you, Matt?
41.
41. Okay.
Yeah. I started doing this when I was 20. I should have just got a few bits to take off. Yeah, when you polish them up, you see like the final bits that need doing.
Yeah. So that's the bit of to and fro that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So you were born in 80 or 81, presumably?
80.
80. So you think that, given that that has a neck date of 3 March 61, the first time that guitar was fretted was 20 years before you were born. And yeah, and a few less than that before I was born. That's mad.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, some of the instruments I've worked on, there's stuff from, early, like 19. There was one that was 90. It was like 1900.
Wow.
And you get some. Actually, there was one which it's actually a really, really cool story. So this woman phoned up and she said that her grandson had started playing guitar, and she had an old classical guitar which she wanted to give him to so I said, okay, that's cool, just come down and we can have a look at it. And the work that was needed to be done to the guitar was, it needed refretting things glued, and it was just a big job. And so I said, I don't, honestly, I think you'd be better off buying him a new one because it will cost you way less. And she was like, no, because this one has real sentimental value, because she's Polish. So she's Polish, and she left with her family, sort of escaped to England when the Nazis were coming, and she had a bag of clothes, a teddy, and that guitar.
Oh my God.
So it came all the way over, and so I was just like, okay, I'll do it, no worries, we'll do it. And and sort of just did it for her, for.
And he played it.
Yeah, and it's just really cool.
Yeah. I guess that's it, isn't it? All these things, whether it's an old guitar like this or an old guitar like that, they mean something, and they come to mean things through human interaction with them. And
So there you go.
Look at that. So no need for the buffing wheel.
No.
Because that's all done.
That's all done.
And you're doing that with paper, that last little bit?
Yeah, yes, it's just
kitchen paper.
Blue towel. Yeah, it's like same kitchen roll.
Oh man.
Because all we need to do now is clean the board off, then condition it, and that's done. We can get on with the nut.
Get on with the nut. Oh man.
So for that, we need, again, it's super high tech.
Yeah, some lighter fluid.
And manky old toothbrush. Yeah, this is really cool. The toothbrush is really handy because it can get right in under the fret, or into the side of the fret.
This is what they call naphtha in the US, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's got some slight different things in it.
Yeah.
Because I did try...
But that is lighter fluid, right?
Yeah, basically. I did try some pure... Supposedly it was pure naphtha that somebody who did car finishing recommended, because that's what they use to get all the grease and everything off the car before spraying it. And I got the one that he recommended, and it was great for all this stuff, but I got it on some lacquer, and whereas this won't do anything, it literally ate into it.
Oh God.
So unfortunately it was my own guitar, so that didn't matter. But yeah, there's got to be some differences in it. But yeah, I'm like, this one works, so I'll stick with it.
It's Zippo lighter fluid for anyone interested.
Yeah, exactly. And go full Jimmy.
That's a technical term, obviously. Yeah. Somewhere there's a little scale that says Nat's cocked to full Jimmy. Is that that's how that works?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to make that.
Yeah.
Cool, so that's all cleaned. There's no residue or anything coming off it.
Yeah.
Just give it a couple of seconds for the rest of it to evaporate.
Right.
Put some instrument food on it, and away we go.
Look at that. Lovely rosewood. So this is your basically neutral.
Yeah, it's instrument food. It's just a natural wax that.
They make it here, people.
Yeah, literally just behind this wall.
Matt showed me the machines in which they make it. It's not a lie. They actually do make it here. So what's in there then?
In this, primarily it's beeswax and it's got some mineral oil and a few other bits.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reason I started using this, because as all of us had been using like lemon oil and various things up until
All the things that guitar magazines told you to use.
Yeah, I even tried. A friend of mine suggested olive oil too, which actually looks really nice, but kind of went a bit manky.
Yeah.
But I was speaking to a furniture restorer, and sort of just comparing what he does to what we do, and he's just like, don't use that stuff. I mean, it's actually lemon oil as a product is a brilliant cleaner. So it's like the naphtha thing, because it's actually got that in it, and it works great that way, but it conditions the wood, but sort of temporarily. It evaporates very quickly.
Okay.
So whereas like a wax-based product, some more solid, actually will stay in there and keep it moisturised for longer. So I started looking around. Well, he suggested, told me what he used. So I got some of that, and that was great. But it had some like chemicals in it and smelt manky. So I just started looking around for other recipes and stumbled across a few old ones and tested them out, and then this was kind of born, and I've been using it ever since. And also, it's good not only as a conditioner. I use it for like lubricating the nut under the string, anywhere the string touches. Also great for leather jackets, shoes.
You put on shoes?
Yeah, I put it on my shoes. It's like a conditioning thing.
I used I don't know if you saw it. I got a cheap 12-string. Oh, no, shouldn't say cheap. A cost-effective 12-string, which I did use on the Andy Timmons gigs, and it sounded flipping amazing. And I did the board with the Monty Presso, the darker one. And
no, I did see that.
Yeah, it made a big difference. Oh my God, look at that! Just look at it. Come on, focus, please focus on my lovely fingerboard. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it looks. It's a nice piece of wood, that.
Yeah. There it is. There it is. Oh man.
Cool. So now I've got to make the nut. Let's get this. So for that, I need to get my sanding machine up here.
Okay, we shall reset.
Cool, so the next thing is the nut. So first, the way I do it, we get these blanks done. So these are unbleached. They're also impregnated with an oil. So they're better for like, tuning stability, all that kind of thing.
But it is bone, right?
Yeah. I do use another thing, which is, they call it nature's ivory.
Yeah.
Which is it a tagua nut? Which is actually, it's nicer to work with, because as you'll smell in a minute, this is
stinky,
freaking horrible, whereas the other one smells like popcorn when you're using it. But yeah, so what I do with this is I get the thickness right, so it will fit in the slots, which is not too far off, and then I can draw the radius on it, rough that out, and then we'll fine tune it, and then it's the ends and shape it, and away we go.
Okay.
So this is going to get noisy and smelly. That's the thickness done.
So health and safety says
It's dangerous, yeah.
all the little guards and things that we saw, we just managed to airbrush out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this. I'm the only person that does any of this stuff, and kind of. It's I used to, but the proper way you should do it is I should have mounted that onto a block and then done it like that. But time restraints and the fact that this is pretty much all the way I've just always done it.
And you can do your nails while you're doing it as well, can't you?
Oh yeah, I've done it many times.
Yeah. Little flat bits on the end of your fingers.
Yeah.
So you stick it in there, and that enables you to mark it, so you know what the radius on the bottom of the.
Roughly, so you can see.
Yeah.
It's very faint, but you can kind of see
Yeah.
that. So all I'm going to do is rough that out, and then I'll do the rest by hand on the neck, because the slot is exactly the same radius as the neck itself. Yeah. It's a lot quicker and easier this way.
I didn't know that. We said it earlier, but that's something I've learned today. I didn't realise it was radiused underneath.
Yeah, makes it a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. Why not? I mean,
right, noisy again. Cool, so that's that pretty much roughed out, and then we'll just fine tune it with some of that 80 grit sandpaper just on the neck.
Yeah.
That'll get that. Just got to find out where it is.
The 80. So post-pandemic and everything that's happened, have you seen a squeeze on materials? Yeah. It's been kind of crazy, really. We had. The main thing's been metalwork, because like base plates, covers, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, so all I'm doing here, actually I'll move this up, is I've got the sandpaper literally on top of that fret there, that part of the neck, and then making sure to keep it square so you're not going off. Oh, I see. So you're using the neck as a template?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, of course. Dope.
And that's pretty much there, I think.
So, So you know you've got the radius exactly right because the sandpaper...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, just need to take it down a little bit. There's just some bits in there. This is quite often you'll end up with little bits of glue or leftover bits of shim or something in there.
Yeah, detritus.
Yep.
Lest we forget that it was shimmed with a piece of
plastic.
Indeterminate plastic. It's like a big yogurt pot or something like that.
Yeah. Seen all sorts. Bits of fag packet.
I swear it's got blood on it as well.
Most probably whoever put it in cut themselves when doing it.
Yeah. There you go.
Right, how are we looking? It's near enough there, there's still a little gap, so Yeah, let's do a little bit more and then we're all good. Sweet, yeah, can you see? So it's right on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then
Just see if I can get a close up of that, see if it will focus. Yeah, I can't play it like that, mate.
this is a unique design, my signature nut design. Cool, so now what I'll do is I'm going to mark where the edges are, and then remark the radius, because then we can kind of use that as a guide to radius the top of the block. A really good way of doing it is if they get a standard pencil and cut it in half and have it on top of the frets and then go across, because that will be sort of the lowest you could take it to.
Yeah.
But my pencil broke and I haven't made myself a new one. Right, noisy town again. That should be about right. I'm gonna. Once I've marked the string slots out and we've cut the nut, I'll reshape it again and get it down so but it's getting there. Should we take it a little bit more? I thought we got loads. In fact, yeah, take off some more. Cool, so now that's all shaped. Just gonna put, again, not much glue, but like 2 dots.
So enough to hold it there, but enough to make it easy to remove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they do on PRS guitars. They only have a tiny bit of glue, so you can knock it off really easy.
Yeah. With minimum damage to the wood.
Right now. Cool, so now I'm just going to do the edges. And get them flush. So I've got a few various kind of files I've collected over the years. It's just actually a bit more glue.
There are some companies, I'm always amazed how sharp they leave the edges of the nut.
Yeah.
Like, I think on PRS actually, I think at least one of my PRS guitars has got a super sharp edge on the nut,
Yeah.
which you just wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's like this is how precise this thing is, and you can then take it off if you want. But
yeah. They're nuts. They're moulded, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, they use a non not bone.
Yeah, so it's just taking these down so they're all nice and comfy.
Do you have an opinion on nut materials?
They all do different things, you know. The one I like is that Nature's Ivory. That's what I use on my own. Yeah. But I mean, I've used and fitted all kinds of different stuff, and they all have you know, they all have advantages. The main thing is, as long as the nut is cut right,
Yeah.
and you know the string path is, you know, not affected by that, and there's no with minimal friction there, you'll be good with whatever material.
The old golden, yeah. Obviously, I've gone for a traditional bone nut because it's right for the guitar, and
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the downside of bone is that it wears a bit quicker.
it's pretty hardy,
Right.
You know, I find brass nuts actually, they get cut into quite quickly, and all the plastic stuff, all the plastic-esque stuff.
Yeah.
Again, they do. I mean, it depends how. If you're doing multiple tunings and all that kind of stuff, and you're moving the strings through it, it's basically cutting through it. So, the more you do that, the less time the nut will be good for.
Righty-ho. So you've been around the nut with the file.
Yeah.
Just to...
The ends are 90% done. Obviously, a lot of shaping to do.
Yeah.
So now it's just a case of putting it all back together, marking the nut slots out, putting some starter grooves in, get it strung up, and then set up.
You might laugh at this question. I have always wondered how you decide where the extremities of the slot are.
I mean, there's sort of ways of figuring it out, but the easiest way is this, like, StewMac, I mean, other manufacturers are available, string guide ruler.
Oh, for a minute, I thought you were going to say, and there is this thing called a ruler.
Yeah, but there is also a ruler. So the way I do it is you go to measure 3 millimeters in from the edge of the nut.
Right.
Probably want.
There is this thing called a ruler. No way, look at that.
Let's see.
Come on, focus. Oh, it's never going to focus. Let's try that.
Yeah, so I've marked 3 mil from the end of the nut.
Yep.
And then all you do with this, makes it super simple. You line the ruler up. It's got loads of these little marks on it, and yeah, you just want one that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're way down. You want to just line them all up, and nearly there.
Oh, I see. So it gets wider as it goes along the ruler.
Yeah, exactly. So it's looking like it's pretty much here. But again, this is just a guide, and I'll show you in a minute how you can fine tune it. Cool. So that's that done. Can put that away. I'll just do this now. Once it's off. So these are all my nut files. Rather a large amount of them. So what's these? Cool. Let's get.
And another numpty question.
Yeah.
If you've got a 14 gauge string, do you use a 14 gauge nut file?
I would always use one bigger.
Yeah.
So for like what I typically for this set, I'd use. I've got the next one for this would be a 13, then a 16, then a 20.
Yeah.
And then most probably for the thicker ones, I kind of go closer in. So I would use a 28 for that. I've got a 42 and I've got a 50, so I'd use those. But for the treble ones, I always go a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Because presumably it is slightly V-shaped, is it, the file?
No, these are
perfectly flat.
Perfectly flat. Yeah.
Okay, I've got some StewMac ones that are slightly V-shaped.
Yeah.
Hence the question. So I'm like, well, which one do I use then? Because it just gets fatter.
Yeah. But I do use those too. But for when we're going fresh in, I prefer it like this, purely because I like the look of it when it's finished. They both do the same job. So what I'm going to do now is just rough out them so the strings have something to sit in. So it's making sure you keep it level. But if it's not level, you know, we can see that real easy when the strings are on it and sort that out. There we go. Cool, so now let's get it all back together.
Cool, so we have a guitar back together.
Pretty much, there's last string to go on.
Matt, you were telling me something really interesting about the number of windings on the post.
Yeah, so I have, it may look, if you see, there's more than usual, but the reason for this, hang on, I'll tell you in a minute, is that what you want on the E, A and D, I cut them to about 2.5 to 3 machine heads away. Yeah, so the G's got more, it's got about 6 machine heads, and that's because I want the break angle to be similar to these, and so it stops it like popping out the nut. It's worse on tellies than it is on Strats, but I kind of do it as just on all of them. And then on the B and the E, depending on the brand of string, I might even not cut them at all. But with these ones, because they were overly long, I just cut them back a bit, again about 6 machine heads, 7 maybe. And that's because what you want here, you want the string to go over the nut and down towards the string tree, but not go up again. So you want it to either at least be level, but better, as you can see here, go slightly down. And that just helps with the whole friction on the string path and tuning stability and that kind of thing. It does take a little bit longer to stretch in, but the benefits are way worth it.
Yeah.
After doing that.
I was pleased to see you using the Dean Markley
Yeah, that's a game changer, that
drill
is.
bit winder there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolute game changer. All right, let's get this up to pitch and then we can start doing it. Oh, is everything. Sure. It's all in line. Let's plug her in. Cool, so it's good for slide. Truss rods bang on, so that's really cool. So with the setup, it's always, always do it in this order. So it's truss rod, nut, saddles, intonation, yep. And that's it. So done that, let's get on with the nut. Now it's a little bit out of whack. The best way to see it is if you cup your hands around the nut, you're kind of eliminating any shadow and stuff, because then you can really see. It's like on this, the B needs to come over there a little bit and the D that way a little bit. But again, we're talking hardly anything. And
because you've only just put sighting grooves in,
yeah,
you can cut the new groove, and by the time you take the top off the nut, no problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is get the E sorted. Okay, when you're cutting the nut, you always want to cut it with an angle, so it's going down towards the headstock.
Yeah. So the
last point of contact is here.
Yeah.
Rather, if you do it flat, or worse, this way, it's just going to hit the back end and then kind of flutter across the top, which you'll get. That's when you get sitaring sounds and all kinds of weirdness.
It's interesting how many playability problems are caused at the nut, and it might be your last recourse to look at.
Yeah.
I know that was on my blue Strat, on blue, it was, the nut was a problem for ages.
Yeah.
And I went through all kinds of other things
Yeah.
before I'd realised that.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference it makes.
So to get started, you just go down an arbitrary depth?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I always start with the high E, and what I
Yeah.
want to do is get it so if I fret it on the 4th, I can just about see a gap, but
Yeah.
you can hear it. And then the B, you want it to be slightly higher than that, and then slightly higher, slightly higher, slightly higher. Yeah.
So you're into feel and experience. You're not into feeler gauges and.
No, not really. Although I think when you're learning, it would be really handy to have that, but I never had that.
Yeah.
I've been looking at ways of trying to figure out a definitive height, and do that reliably without just relying on your eyes and stuff, but it is evading me yet. Cool, so good to go.
And again, I just love the way, like, whenever I file my nut slots, I'm so ginger with it, you know, like, oh God. And then,
Oh, I'll be ginger now
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah,
really
yeah.
close, but yeah. I mean, but that's the best way to be. It's better to check 1,000 times than.
yeah. Or as your dad said, measure twice, cut once, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of times I've had to replace, like, fill nut slots that I've cut too low, or shim a nut, or replace it, and you know, yeah, just keep checking, check. Because it's just on the last string.
Last slot, and you'll have seen you'll work out what's happened. Matt's just gone from string to string, as he said, increasing the height of that nut slot ever so slightly all the way from treble to bass.
And now we've got. I mean, okay, it's not pretty yet, but we'll get that there in a bit. If you feel that, you'll be able to feel like a slope. Do you see what I mean?
Probably easier with this hand. Yeah, oh yeah, quite significantly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, wow.
So I'm just shaping it now so we can. Should we just take the strings off? That'll be easier.
So this is taking the excess height out of it
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be there, and then just rounding off the edges and making it look a bit prettier.
Yeah.
One of the I see nuts where the string sits all the way in it. I sit somewhere they're just sitting on the top. I see some where they're sitting half out.
Yeah.
Where do you?
I'm coming from the practical angle, so it's just I prefer them to be in there.
In there.
Just because, I mean, you never know how aggressive someone is with the playing, and you know, loads of things can happen, but what you don't want is for it to pop out.
Yeah.
I mean, the chances of that happening are incredibly slim, but I haven't.
There's quite a lot of pressure there
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of the
yeah.
brake angle. Yeah.
Exactly, but prefer to be safe than sorry. Trusty old nut file, fret end file. Put in there. Let me just start sort of polishing it a similar way we did with the frets. Also, what I'll do here is start to just round the top of the slots off, just to make it a bit more comfortable and not so square and sharp. Also clears out all the rubbish that's in there.
So we've gone down the grades of sandpaper,
Yeah.
wet and dry paper, and now we're on to T-cut just to give it a polish.
Just give it a polish, and then we should be all good to go.
Amazeballs.
One last thing. Where is it? Here we go.
Aha, I did wonder.
Just put a little bit of the instrument food. Again, because I've T-cutted here, so I'm going to put a little bit there. And also have some excess in the nut. So yeah, it's just there. And that'll help all this tuning stability and everything. We are good to go. So now it should be just restring it, sort out the heights, string heights, and cook it on gas. You may see a little bit of the instrument food come out when we put it in here, but we just clean it off when it's done.
Okay, so the strings are on, the nut's done. Matt's just having a look at the action heights. Now, I've never measured my action height. What are you seeing?
So actually, in all fairness, if you've done this all like by eye and feel,
Yeah.
they're pretty much set. They're set in the same way I would set them, which is I would set usually. Well, it doesn't matter about the initial start height, but always the low E is about 0.5 mil higher than the high E.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you've got here naturally. Just going to take it up a little bit because it's zinging, but it's still.
What's worrying me is that there's not very much adjust left in those saddles.
Yeah, well, you're kind of. It's got more than you think, because these are threaded all the way down here. So the old saddles they're more hardy than the modern ones, and you can kind of get more wiggle on them. I fell over.
It is slightly mad to think that, you know, 6 hours ago, we were just getting started. The royal we. And here we are.
All pretty much done.
So what are those measurements, just out of interest?
So what I do, my sort of standard is roughly 1.5 mil, maybe a smidge underneath on the high E string.
Yeah.
Going up to 2 to just under, but again it's the same as the nut, you just do a little bit higher each time.
Yeah.
And that gives you this really nice kind of comfortable fall away. It's just more really, it just feels really good. And you know, fingers, toes and everything else crossed, no buzzing problems, choking like problem, that kind of thing. Got a little bit of a wolf tone thing going on.
Pick up when I go down a bit.
Yeah. It won't go down any further. The routes on these are really shallow on the old ones, so actually it's not too bad. Yep. Do you want to have a tinkle?
Yeah, man. Let's have a look then.
There you go. I'll get out of your way.
No, you stay there. Stay there. We haven't had a shot of us both in yet, so I will just sit on here to make sure that we are both in. Oh man, it's nice to feel those it's nice to feel the ends.
Is it feeling?
Yeah, so everything I was saying about the action didn't feel high enough
Yeah.
is now not a problem because I can get under the strings.
Yeah, exactly. You've just got more control.
Oh man!
It sounds killer, man.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I knew it was going to be better. I didn't quite think it was going to be this much better. Oh, mate.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, man.
Thank you so much. That is... Oh, okay. Let's say a massive... Come on, let's get us both in.
Oh, both in the stool.
Yeah. Let us say a massive thanks to Matt for his generosity of sharing all this information and for doing this today and allowing to be filmed. It is a really big deal, mate.
No, it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Matt's got to go because it's
My son's sports day.
sports day and you can't miss the egg and spoon race.
No, I've got to partake.
So I'll follow this up in another video, but holy crap, man, just to watch that happen in the space of a few hours is awe-inspiring.
No,
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. One thing I will say is just keep an eye on it because obviously it's had a lot of work done.
Yep.
And things may shift around, but just give us a call and can talk you through anything.
Oh, man, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it's been refretted. You put it back together and it just
rings.
It does ring differently.
That's the rounded fret thing, you know, having just one point of contact.
Well, I'm not just saying this, it is more resonant than it was before.
Mm-hmm. As I said, the most important thing is to make sure the guitar's set up properly.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you, Matt.
Cheers. Pleasure. Bye.